What's up, everybody? Tori McElhaney here with the Falcons Final Whistle podcast presented by Zaxby's. I am so excited for two reasons. The first reason is that the Falcons were back in primetime football. And oh my gosh, it was truly one of those games that I think that I will remember for a very long time, where you were when Kirk Cousins took the ball with 1 minute and 39 seconds left and drove this team to a victory. But the other reason why I am super excited about today's podcast is because Amna, Subhan, and I are welcoming a special guest to the pod, filling in for her first podcast experience, Taylor Vismor, our studio host. Yay. Taylor, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. Hey, guys. Excited to be here.
You are? Okay.
I mean, what a game to kind of kick it off. I don't know that you can really top this one. So
yeah.
I'm excited to be here, talk about this game, the insane 2-minute drive. What a game from start to finish on both sides of the ball for both teams. It was a really great game.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. I first I'll set the scene a little bit. You're in enemy territory. You're on national television, and the Falcons, for the most part, Taylor, you bring up a good point about on both sides of the ball. They were kind of kicking the whole entire game. And I felt in the locker room after the game, Grady Jarrett made the best point where he was like, it literally took us all day to earn this win. The Falcons end up defeating the Philadelphia Eagles 22-21 in stunning fashion in prime time. So in 10 words or less, ladies, what is your biggest takeaway from this game? And Taylor, since you are new here, I will let you go first.
Oh, thank you. I told you before we started it's going to be more than 10 words because I think it's 12. So the defense showed their ability to play at a high level all 4 quarters. That's my biggest takeaway in this game. I think I won't allude. That was way more than 10 words. But defense showed their ability to play at a high level all 4 quarters.
All right, Amna, what do you got?
That's all right that you went over because I have 3 words. You like that? I practiced that on the drive over. I did indeed. No, but Kirk Cousins, he came in and he got it done and silenced everybody because there was a lot of chatter ahead of this game.
Yeah. It was interesting because I think in the tunnel right outside of the Falcons locker room, that was kind of all you heard. You heard screams, and you heard after the game, you heard guys being excited and everything, but there were so many "you like that" coming from that locker room.
You like that?
Every time. It was so funny. I want to get into our first topic, which is this final drive. And everybody, if you are watching this and you see that I am literally have a coffee IV hooked up to me right now, it's because I am currently running off of 2.5 hours of sleep. I'm really tired. So I'm going to try and make sure to get all of the information, but I may struggle through it, but we're going to try. So Falcons took over with 1 minute and 39 left on the clock on their own 30-yard line, down 21-15. According to Next Gen Stats, they had a 0.7% chance of winning the game.
So you're saying there's a chance.
It was a comeback win that was the 7th most improbable win in Next Gen Stats era, which started in 2016.
That's wild.
It is improbable is the only word that you can kind of use. And 6 plays took Kirk Cousins 5 of 6 through the air in that drive. To me, it was a masterclass of a 2-minute drive, a 2-minute drill. It was Kirk Cousins in command, in control, getting the ball to guys like Kyle Pitts, Darnell Mooney twice, Drake London, and then, of course, Drake London getting the right separation on that little out route at the front of the end zone for the touchdown that ultimately put them ahead. So, Amna, looking back on that drive and as you were watching it all unfold, what did you see from Kirk Cousins that stood out to you in that moment?
He just looked so comfortable. Looking at it from the broadcast, honestly, it could have been a 2-minute drive heading into halftime. That's how, I wouldn't say nonchalant, but just how even keeled it was. It was his face, no emotional. It was just, I'm gonna, no thinking, I'm just gonna get the job done. And guys said that in the locker room as much. Jake Matthews said, he didn't blink, he's been there before. And like, yeah, this is why you went out and you got Kirk Cousins.
No,
that's why you have that experience. That's why you have a guy that can lead you down and get a win like that. I was thinking, minute 39, no timeouts. Saquon dropped that. It was like, okay, you have something.
Right.
And you really felt like you had a chance with Kirk. You felt like there's at least, like, let's see what they can do. There wasn't this anxiety that I had where it's like, this is like, I'm probable, yes, but.
Right. Well, no, you make a good point, because even Bijan Robinson in the post-game locker room, he was like, when you have a veteran quarterback like Kirk, you don't really have to worry, which is, I think, very indicative to your point of this is the whole reason why you go out and you get someone like Kirk Cousins. Taylor, does this almost validate that reason? When you're looking at that minute and 39 seconds left in the game, no timeouts, no hardly any type of, like, you're just moving the ball as much as you can in the time that you have. And I'll say this, I was kind of shocked at how quickly they got to the 12-yard line. I remember looking up and being like, oh, they're in the red zone.
They're moving and grooving.
They're moving and grooving. So is this right here why you pay Kirk Cousins the money that you do to come in and be your QB1?
Yeah, first of all, let me just say, you said there was no anxiety. Speak for yourself. I was not okay. I was like, okay, we have like a minute and 30-ish seconds left. We don't have any timeouts. We have to be so clean, so crisp. And I say we, and I mean, I'm not on the 53-man roster. I'm not on this coaching staff. And I mean, we as in the Falcons, like, this Falcons team has to be so clean and crisp as they go down, and they have to go the full field in a minute and 39 seconds and be so clean with it. And I think what you asked about, does this validate why you pay him so much money? For me personally, I never questioned, was Kirk Cousins worth $180 million? Because when you look at this quarterback market and you look at the necessity of having not a good quarterback, but a great quarterback that can do a 2-minute drill the way that he did, you have to pay him that money because of the market that is set during free agency and throughout the year. I think in order to get Kirk Cousins, you had to pay him that much. It was no ifs, ands, or buts, or if he's worth it or not. But I do think what you saw last night and what was validating was Kirk is the same Kirk that we knew with the Vikings. He's the same Kirk that we knew with the Commanders. He comes in, he's even keeled. He knows how to play a 2-minute drill. And I don't know if you guys saw it on Twitter, but during the Manning cast, Matt Ryan was on during that 2-minute drill.
I reposted that because I was watching it, and I legitimately, he made a point that I thought was so good, where he was talking about the 2-minute drill, and he was like, that's honestly, when you're learning a new offense and you're in a new install, like, that 2-minute drill is actually probably when you're the most comfortable.
Right, and that's what I saw from Kirk, and I thought that was so insightful from not just Matt Ryan, but both Manning brothers. They were all in agreement of, these are your early installs in training camp and OTAs. So when you get to it, when you don't have timeouts, when you have to just run and gun and play quickly and play with no fear, that's what I saw in Kirk Cousins. And I think more than anything, not to validate how much money he's getting, but to validate getting someone with so much experience coming off of an injury. I think exactly that 2-minute drill is why you go out and get a Kirk Cousins.
It's interesting you bring up this experience too, because what's so interesting about Kirk Cousins, and Amna, you actually wrote about Kirk Cousins in Monday Night Football, and now he has won 4 of his last 5 Monday night appearances, which is pretty good for, I'll say it, a quarterback of his age. But I think it honestly makes you think about the experience and the level of experience that he's had in these big-time games, in these big-time moments over the course of his career, and that you're seeing that experience show up in this way. And I know Jesse Bates in the locker room, he was like, I think it was Maria Martin of 11 Alive, she asked him, like, what he thought of that final drive from Kirk. And his direct quote was, it's pretty damn good. I'll be honest, it's pretty damn good. Might have been the best that I've seen.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts
really says something.
Right. Jalen Hurts on the other side is like, you have to give credit to the Falcons offense for, look, like, when they had to score, they scored.
Right.
And as we kind of move on to topic number 2, which is going to be the offensive operation, not just in that minute 39, but over the course of the entire game, this was an offense that needed a lot of redemption after a week 1 that let's be honest, and everybody in the locker room says this, or said it, and coaches too, did not live up to the expectations that they had set for themselves. There is still a long ways to go in terms of where this offense needs to be on a consistent basis, but you saw glimpses of the run game finally be established. It was, Falcons went from 89 rushing yards in week 1 to 109 in the first half alone on Monday night. They finished the night with a 151 rushing yards. Bijan Robinson was 3 yards away from breaking the 100 rushing yard mark. He averaged 6.9 yards a carry. Tyler Algier not far behind, averaging 5.9 yards per carry. Taylor, how important was it to see this specific performance from this offensive line, from Bijan, from Tyler, in this game specifically, with the context of how they couldn't really get it going in that first week?
Yeah, I'm so glad you bring up the offensive line because it's a massive part of the run game, right?
Yeah.
You can't run the ball. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, they can't run the ball without having a really good set line. And I think one of the best things about this game is that there were no operational penalties on this offense. They played clean, they played crisp all 4 quarters. That's huge for your run game to just get the ball going. There was a moment where Drew Dahlman, there was a flag on him, I think, for false start or holding, and it was obviously taken away. And the camera was on him, and he was kind of like, yeah, thank you, I know. Like, I got it, right? So the way that these guys on the line play close to perfection, and they were able to do that yesterday, helps that run game. And I think you were able to see how special Bijan Robinson is.
Yeah.
I think, looking at what he was as a rookie versus this game in particular, he's matured a lot. He's not, I feel like last year he was just so back and forth and crazy. Where's he going to go? And I think with this game against the Eagles, you saw him way more controlled in a controlled environment and just seemed more comfortable to run the ball, and saw the field better than he did in week 1. And obviously as a rookie, and I think you saw that with Tyler as well, just total control and comfortability with running the ball.
It's what I think too is I think you do have to give some credit to the coaching staff and how they game plan for Bijan specifically. I think that's been something that they've talked about over the course of OTAs and training camp, is like, how can we best utilize Bijan Robinson as the offensive weapon that he is? And I do think that even though the performance and the productivity wasn't necessarily there in week 1, you saw kind of the goal of how you
saw
want
the intention.
You saw
it was
the
like
intention.
18 carries.
Exactly.
You saw it.
So you saw it, and then I feel like this in week 2 was another step in the right direction for Bijan Robinson in the run game, but it wasn't perfect. And like I said at the top of this topic, this offense is still, I think, working through some kinks. And it was Kirk Cousins who said, look, like, we're not going to win very many games if we're not better on third down, if we're not better in the red zone. And he's exactly right, because when you look at this stat line, the Falcons were 2 of 9 on third down and 1 for 3 in the red zone. Those numbers, when you have a team like the Kansas City Chiefs coming in for a Sunday night matchup this coming week, you're on a short week, if those numbers aren't better, it's probably going to be tough sledding. So, Amna, where does this offense still need to go to get better, not just in those areas, but I think collectively kind of stringing more consistent play together?
Yeah. Well, we talked about it. Like, they look comfortable when they're not thinking. They look comfortable in those 2-minute drills. It's a matter, I think, of getting, again, just more comfortable.
More reps together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, this is week 2.
Yeah.
They had their first live rep together, first snap of the game in week 1. So these guys are getting a little bit more comfortable with each other. And you saw it throughout the game a little bit. Like, there was a moment where Kirk could have hit Drake in the end zone and didn't see him. And there was a moment where in that fourth quarter, right before the game-winning drive, that he and Darnell had like a miscommunication on a long play. And then the next drive, there was those back-to-back chunk plays to Darnell. So you're seeing those guys get a little bit more cohesive with each other. And I think that's what you want in week 2. Like, Drake London after the game said that, like, this win is a good building block.
Yeah.
And when a game like this of that stature is a building block, I think you're heading in the right direction. But yeah, with the Chiefs coming in, you got to like tighten it up, especially in those moments there.
I want to hop on what you're saying really fast about the building block, because I think you saw the leadership that Raheem Morris has from his press conferences before the game and the press conference after. Coming into the game, he was saying, look, and I grew up with my dad telling me this, you can't let the Pittsburgh Steelers beat you twice. I grew up with, you can't let Alabama beat you twice, but you can't let them beat you twice. You can't be looking at so far back at the game, when you're on Thursday trying to fix what happened on Sunday, because that doesn't matter anymore. Yeah, take what you learned, take what you saw, and apply it to the Eagles, but whatever you can apply, what makes sense to apply. And he said the same thing. It was like one of the first things he said in his press conference yesterday was, you can't lose to Kansas City because you're focused on the win that you had in the Eagles. You have to, celebrate it, feel great about it, look at the things that you did really well. But, Kirk Cousins also said right when he got off the field, literally on his post-game interview, was we have a lot to clean up. And I think when you have a leader like Raheem Morris and when you have a leader like Kirk Cousins who had that mentality of this was great, but there's still a lot to clean up and we have to move forward, I think what you said in this being a building block is what will make this Falcons team great.
Another word that kept coming up in the post-game locker room along the same vein was propelling the team forward, like using this win to propel the team into what's next. And that was actually something Grady Jarrett talked about. It's something that Darnell Mooney talked about, that we talk about like building block and you're kind of piecing something together, but it's also a nice little push to kind of build a sense of confidence after a week one where, again, things did not go the way that you wanted them to go.
Today's episode of Falcons Final Whistle is brought to you by Zaxby's. And after a long game, when I'm tired and I need to refuel, I turn to Zaxby's. Their marinated, hand-breaded, fried to perfection chicken fingers, they hit the spot every time. Get yours with seasoned crinkle fries, a nice drink, and whichever of their 12 signature sauces you're feeling at the moment. But it always hits just right. So next time you need to refuel, go get yourself some Zaxby's.
We need to talk about the defense. We talked all about the offense. We have to give a note for the defense. This is now the second week in a row that I feel like this defense has given this team a chance to win. Now, was it perfect? No. Jalen Hurts leaked out of the pocket one too many times, I think, for their liking, for my liking, for anybody's liking. But what do you take? Amna, I'm going to start with you. What do you take away from this defensive performance overall, especially in the context that the fact that this unit has given up 2 touchdowns in 8 quarters and I want to say like 20 drives?
They can be game changers. And we saw that with Jesse Bates. I mean, we saw what he could do last year, too.
Right,
so
yeah. That's not new.
That's
we
not new.
We knew that, yeah.
With the rest of the unit, like, you see Kaden Ellis making that rush to lead to the interception.
Right.
You're seeing Matthew Judon get his first sack.
Yep.
And, like, it was... I'd say the offensive line play from both teams was really great, but those moments that the Falcons broke through, like, really mattered. And so... You're seeing a team that can really, you're seeing a unit that can take over.
I do think you have to look at what Jesse Bates was able to do. I know there was the what was it, the third down play in the end zone where he gets a hand on the ball, and that was going to be a game-changing moment, whichever way you looked at it. Whether you looked at it from Jesse Bates making the play or a potential touchdown, that was going to be a moment that we looked back on to be like, okay, this is a moment that alters the outcome of the game itself.
Yeah. And to that point, like throughout the week, the defense was, they're glad about the effort that they had in week 1, right? No touchdowns.
Right, yeah.
But they really wanted a takeaway. That's what they really wanted, and they got it in the moment where they needed it.
Yeah, in the final seconds of the game to put the game on ice. Taylor, same question for you. What did you see from this defensive performance and kind of just in the context of the way that they've been playing over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it was my biggest takeaway from the whole game. I think coming into this, there were so many questions about the offense, and rightfully so, about Kirk Cousins and Zach Robinson and Raheem Morris and how that operation works. But and I think we all had the same questions about it, but one of my questions that wasn't about the offense was, can this defense be elite and play at an elite level? And I think when you go up against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly on Monday Night Football, Nick Foles is retiring. The fans are nuts.
Jason Kelsey's back.
I mean, like, it was like nuts having that fan base there. And I wanted to see if they could play at an elite level. And I really do think, like you said, yeah, Jalen Hurts got away a couple of times, but I think that's the name of the game. That's right. Jalen Hurts. Like, if he doesn't, then that's probably one of the more impressive showings of defense throughout the NFL. If you can contain Jalen Hurts and you can contain Saquon Barkley and you can contain Devontae Smith. And I think, allowing yourself to bend and not break in those moments, right? Like you said, Jesse Bates with that huge PPU in the end zone was kind of not a pendulum swing. I wouldn't say that, because when you look at the game as a whole, in my mind, there was really never a doubt for me with this defense. I was like, oh, they're rolling. Like, they are strong. They know how to play. They're playing comfortable. They're playing fast, free. Jimmy Lake likes to say violent. Like, they were playing all of those things at a very high level. And I think, I was a little nervous coming into this about the inside linebacker group because of Nate Landman being placed on IR. And was J.D. Bertrand going to play? And if not, how would Troy Anderson and Caden Ellis handle being in for every snap of the game? And I think both of them handled it with grace, with composure, and they did an amazing job. I think if you don't hear those two names, they're doing a pretty good job.
I'm glad that you brought up Caden Ellis, because I loved the way that Jimmy Lake used Caden Ellis in this game specifically. I have been talking about this, I feel like, since training camp, about Caden Ellis's bread and butter as a player is actually as an edge rusher.
Yes.
He actually is like this really talented pass rusher. That's what he did at Iowa. It's how the Saints used him with Ryan Nielsen in that year where he really came alive and really put his name on the map a little bit before coming to the Falcons on the deal that he's currently on now. And I remember sitting there in week one being like, I feel like it's very basic, very vanilla, very foundational defense that Jimmy Lake was calling, and it worked. They didn't give up a touchdown, but there was a sick part of me that was like, where are the elaborate blitzes? Where are the looks? Like, where are these different looks? And they finally came in week 2, and I think the final play of the game was the best depiction of this, and how they just sent everybody, but also the fact that Caden Ellis was, I believe he was over like the right guard and the right tackle, and then he swings around on a stunt and he hits Jalen Hurts, like he's right in his face, hits him, and that's essentially what caused the throw to be offline in the way that it was. And I love that kind of stuff. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to defensive packages and everything like that. And to not have Nate Landman, Taylor, to your point, you knew going into this game that the Eagles' offense was going to get theirs. Like, you don't have these explosive players and these players that you pay the money that you pay Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts to be the leaders on your team without expecting them to go out and perform at a very high level and get their yards, get their touches, get their touchdowns. It was always going to be about, can you limit that? And at times, it was really tough sledding. Jalen Hurts at one point in one drive had almost 50 rushing yards. And almost all of those 50 rushing yards came on moments where the Falcons needed to get off the field. It was fourth down. It was 3rd and long.
Yeah, he had 6.9 yards per carry, which is more than Bijan had. So it was a lot.
So I think that when you look at that, it's like, yes, that's an area that the Falcons need to get better in. That was something that Jimmy Lake talked about after they faced Justin Fields in week 1. It's like, we had too many leaky pockets, or too many times where he leaked out of the pocket. Seeing very similar with Jalen Hurts, but a point that I made at breakfast this morning, as I was kind of like in my weird like mental state of I don't know what day it is and I don't know what time it is, was I was sitting there, I was like, every single quarterback the Falcons face in weeks 1 through 3 are almost like a level up of each other.
I was just about to say
right?
that.
Like, in a weird way, Justin Fields is kind of here. Jalen Hurts is up here. And then you have Patrick Mahomes coming in, who, in terms of just style of play and the guys in the league who you know can destroy you when they get out of the pocket, when they extend plays. Those are the three guys that over the last few years come to mind.
Yeah.
And so the Falcons have this opportunity to kind of be like, all right, we saw the archetype and we've leveled up from Justin Fields to Jalen Hurts. What can you take that you've learned in the first 2 weeks and apply it to, Taylor, what you were saying earlier, like to Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs coming in. So there's a lot that I think this team overall, like Amna said, a lot to still learn about them. There's a lot to still clean up. But to be able to sit here after a Falcons win and talk about this stuff, you don't have like a bitter taste in your mouth, which is where you were in week one. So let's move on. Final topic, ladies, game ball. The Falcons gave Raheem Morris the game ball, and he was holding that thing very proudly in the post-game press conference. And I asked him, I was like, all right, like, why are you holding it? Why do you have it? And he said, he was like, this is the game ball. The team gave it to me. And he was like, I've received a lot of game balls over the years, but because of how special he feels like this team is, and also the fact that this is his first win as not an interim head coach, but the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons on Monday Night Football in prime time, he was like, that means something. That's special. So who gets your game ball? I feel like I know who I'm giving my game ball to. It's the same person who I feel like in my Sunday six pack, which is like 6 things to watch. I predicted that the player of the game would be Kirk Cousins. He's getting my game ball because even though the operation wasn't perfect, even though the Falcons were 2 of 9 on third down, they found a way to win. And ultimately, when you have a veteran quarterback like Kirk Cousins in the pocket, it gives you a chance. And that's something you always felt when Matt Ryan was here. How many comeback wins did Matt Ryan have over the course of his very long, illustrious career? Kirk Cousins has had, he's had these moments over the course of his career where you look at him and you're like, he can perform in the clutch. He can. And that's why, again, it's why you go out and you get him, to be the stalwart and to be the guy in those moments. So he gets my game ball. Amna, I'll let you go. Who gets your game ball?
Jesse Bates.
All right.
Yeah. When you take away a score in the end zone and then don't allow them to get into field goal range for the opportunity to win at home in this big moment, it's all yours.
Yeah. All right, Taylor.
All right, mine is not a player. I think this game ball goes to Zach Robinson. I think the change and the shift that we saw from week 1 to week 2 and the play call and the composure, I think a lot of that composure that Kirk has also comes from what's in his ear. And I don't know what he looks like in the press box calling plays, but I think operationally it just was so much more sound, so much more cohesive, and I think that's a lot to build off of going into week 3 taking on Kansas City. So my game ball goes to Zach Robinson.
I love that. I think that we all know Zach Robinson took a lot of heat in week 1 for the lack of play action, the whole question of pistol versus shotgun versus
like he answered every question
he did
at the game.
And what's so funny, and it literally, I think I tweeted this. It was like the first 2 plays from scrimmage for the Falcons offense had Kirk going under center. The third play was a play action pass.
Like he was like literally like, here you go.
Here,
gosh,
this is what we're doing. Yeah. But no, I love that pick, and I think overall we're all in agreement that this was the building block for what you hope and what you think the Falcons could look like as they get more of these pieces coming together.
Yeah, and before we wrap up, I think going into week 3, 1-1 and not 0-2 gives against really the win against the Eagles, right? Instead of beating the Steelers and then losing to the Eagles, other way around, the way that it happened. Going into week 3, it ups the ante a little bit. The Kansas City Chiefs, they only won by 1 point too this week. Yep. So there's a lot going into this game. There's a lot of pressure, and I think all eyes obviously will be on the Falcons from the national media standpoint. But I think coming into this game, Monday Night Football, prime time, playing well, playing to your keys, playing by your rules, whatever you want to call it, only helps you going forward against Kansas City.
Well, when you're not staring down the barrel of going 0-3,
yeah,
and you just were under the primetime lights on the road, and now you get to do it at home.
Yeah,
that
matters.
Yeah. If Mercedes-Benz was rocking week 1, I'm excited for week 3. It's gonna be fun.
It's going to be really interesting, and you also have to think about the context of the NFC South overall too. The Saints and the Bucks are rolling right now.
Yeah.
So
you need. I mean, it's early, but you kind of needed
Sneaky
that right
division
now.
over here.
You're right. Yeah. You needed that win because you needed to stay in step. You really did, especially considering that the Saints are coming to town in week 4, and then you got the Bucks on tap for week 5. This is a crazy start to the year.
Insane first 5 weeks.
Insanity. But, we're here for it, and we love it, and that's just like NFL football is back, and that's all you really need to say about it. We are so back. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up here. For Taylor, thank you, first off.
Welcome. Hope it went well.
No, I think you crushed it. No, you did great. I loved it. I'm so glad you got to come and hang out with us since Will is in Italy and
sipping cappuccinos.
Right, and Taryn has a delayed flight. So we're doing well. We are doing well. But for Taylor and Amna, I'm Tori. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And we will be back later in the week as we preview the Kansas City Chiefs coming to town. Don't want to miss that.